I came home from work, and my key didn't fit the lock. My uncle had moved his girlfriend and her kids into my house. He looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Blood built this house. You are just a name on paper." I never thought I'd have to call the police on my own uncle. But there I was, standing on the porch of my grandmother's house. My house. Watching Ray Whitmore lean against the doorframe with his arms crossed like he owned the place. He'd changed the locks 3 days earlier. He'd moved his girlfriend and her 2 teenage sons into my guest rooms. And when I told him he needed to leave, he looked me dead in the eye and said, "Blood built this house, and blood lives in it. You're just the name on a piece of paper." That piece of paper ended up destroying him. Let me back up. My name is Darcy Whitmore. I'm 31. I work as a veterinary technician at a small animal clinic in Savannah, Georgia. I'm quiet. I show up on time. I drive a 10-year-old Honda Civic with 187,000 miles on it, and I have never once raised my voice in the break room. Conflict has never been my thing. I was the kid who apologized when someone stepped on my foot. My grandmother Eloise raised me. My mother passed from breast cancer when I was 9, and Eloise took me in without a second thought. Her bungalow on East 52nd Street, a 3-bedroom Craftsman valued at roughly $287,000, was the only real home I ever knew. That house smelled like lavender and pine sol, and whatever Eloise had simmering on the stove. Every good memory I have lives inside those walls. When Eloise got diagnosed with late-stage COPD, I waited for the family to show up. I waited for Uncle Ray, for my cousins, for anyone. Nobody came, not one person. So I moved back in, cut my hours at the clinic from 40 to 25, spent 2 full years managing her medications, replacing oxygen tanks at 3 a.m., coordinating hospice visits, and sitting beside her bed reading her the same James Patterson novels she'd read to me when I was little. 2 years of watching the strongest woman I'd ever known get smaller and quieter until she wasn't there anymore. She passed on the Tuesday in November. The hospice nurse held my hand while I signed the paperwork. I was the only one in the room. Eloise's will was notarized and airtight. She left the bungalow and everything in it to me. No conditions, no splits, no ambiguity. Probate took 4 months through Chatham County and closed without a single challenge. The deed transferred into my name, clean as a whistle. Uncle Ray. Let me tell you about Uncle Ray. He's 54, Eloise's younger brother. He lived 3 hours north in Augusta, bouncing between construction gigs and girlfriends. During those 2 years of hospice, Ray visited exactly 0 times. He called twice, once to ask if Eloise still had a riding mower he could borrow, and once on Christmas, a 90-second conversation where he told me to hang in there, kid, and then said he had to run because his girlfriend was making brisket. He showed up at the funeral in a wrinkled polo shirt, gave a 5-minute speech about family legacy and how the Whitmore name means something in this town. He left before the reception ended. Didn't help clean up, didn't ask how I was doing, just gone. So probate closed. 3 weeks passed, and for the first time in years, I started to breathe. I repainted the kitchen, a soft sage green that Eloise would have loved. I adopted a rescue cat from the clinic named Biscuit, this scruffy orange tabby with 1 chewed-up ear and 0 respect for personal space. I sat on the porch swing at night, drinking sweet tea and feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Like I had something solid beneath my feet, like the ground wasn't going to shift. Then Ray called. Casual. Too casual. Asked how the house was holding up. Asked about the spare bedrooms. Mentioned his girlfriend Tina and her 2 boys, aged 14 and 16, and how they needed a fresh start. Said Augusta wasn't working out. Said he'd been thinking about coming back to Savannah. I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, but I told myself I was overreacting. Ray was a lot of things. Unreliable, self-absorbed, loud, but he wouldn't just show up uninvited. He wouldn't cross that line. 2 days later, he didn't call again. When I pulled into the driveway after a 12-hour shift, there was a U-Haul parked on the front lawn. The tires had already carved ruts into the grass Eloise had babied for 30 years. The front door was propped open with a cinder block, and a woman I had never met in my life was hanging curtains in my grandmother's bedroom. I stood in the doorway of my own home and didn't recognize it. Tina's sons had claimed both guest bedrooms. Garbage bags stuffed with clothes lined the hallway. Someone had shoved my couch against the wall to make room for a brown leather recliner I'd never seen before. The TV was on some sports channel, volume cranked. and Ray was in the kitchen, leaning against the counter, drinking a beer from my fridge like it was a lazy Sunday afternoon. He grinned when he saw me. "There she is. Grandma always wanted the whole family back under one roof. Feels right, don't it?" I set my bag down slow. "Ray, what are you doing?" "Coming home." He said it like it was obvious, like I was the one who didn't understand. Then he told me Grandma had verbally promised him the house years ago, that the will was just a formality to keep things organized during probate, and now that it was settled, he was here to take what was his. He said it so casually, so confidently, that for a split second, I almost wondered if I'd missed something. I hadn't. Within 72 hours, Ray changed all 3 exterior locks. I came home from the clinic on a Wednesday, stuck my key in the front door, and it didn't turn. I had to ring my own doorbell. Ray opened up, handed me a shiny new key, and said he'd upgraded the hardware for safety. His word, safety. That wasn't all. He'd gone into the utility portal and changed the account names on the gas and electric to Ray Whitmore. The bills were still hitting my bank account. He just wanted his name on the screen. And he'd started gutting the guest bathroom. The tile Eloise picked out herself, this pale blue ceramic she'd driven 40 miles to find, was in a pile of rubble in the backyard. He hadn't asked, hadn't mentioned it, just took a sledgehammer to my grandmother's house like it belonged to him. I found him in the kitchen again that evening. I kept my voice level, barely. "Ray, this is my house. My name is on the deed. You can't just change the locks and start renovating without asking me." He didn't even look up from his phone. "Your name's on a piece of paper, sweetheart. That don't mean what you think it means. This house was built by Whitmore hands. My daddy poured the foundation. Mama wanted me here. Then why didn't she leave it to you?" His voice dropped cold. "Because you were standing over her bed, whispering in her ear for 2 years. You think I don't know how that works?" Something cracked inside my chest. Not sadness, something hotter. "You weren't there, Ray. You weren't there for any of it. I'm here now." He finally looked at me, dead steady. "And I ain't leaving. So you can either be family about this, or you can be a problem. Your choice." I didn't yell. I didn't cry in front of him. I walked to my bedroom, the one room nobody had touched yet, locked the door, and sat on the edge of the bed with my hands shaking so hard I could hear my rings clicking together. Every instinct I had told me to back down. That's what I'd always done. Apologize, accommodate, shrink. But I looked at the framed photo of Grandma Eloise on the nightstand, taken on the porch swing 3 months before she passed. And I remembered something she said near the end. Her voice, barely above a whisper. "Don't you let anyone take what you earned, baby. Not even the ones who share your blood." The next morning, I didn't confront Ray. I went to work, clocked in at 7:15, and during my lunch break, I told my coworker Marcus everything. Marcus Dean, 34, ran the front desk at the clinic. Before switching careers, he'd spent 5 years as a paralegal at a small firm in downtown Savannah. He knew his way around property records better than most lawyers I'd met. When I finished talking, he didn't sugarcoat a single word. He told me Ray had no legal standing, not even close. A verbal promise means nothing against a notarized will and a recorded deed. Nothing. Marcus offered to help me pull the official documents from the Chatham County Recorder's Office that afternoon. He also told me to start documenting everything. Photos, screenshots of the utility changes, timestamps on every single thing Ray did or said. "Paper beats blood every single time," Marcus said. "Let's get your paper in order." I felt something shift in my chest. Not anger exactly. Resolve. That night, I opened my banking app to check what the utility charges were costing me, and my stomach dropped straight through the floor. The joint savings account Grandma Eloise had opened with Ray decades ago, one she'd never gotten around to closing, had been drained completely. Every cent. $4,350 gone in a single withdrawal. And Ray's name was on the receipt. Marcus and I spent the next 5 days building a file that could sink a battleship. First, the recorded deed, filed with the Chatham County Recorder's Office. Sole ownership transferred to Darcy Whitmore upon probate completion. Ray's name appeared nowhere on it, not as a co-owner, not as a beneficiary, not even in the margins. Nowhere. Second, the notarized will, executed 18 months before Eloise's death, witnessed by 2 non-family members. Zero mention of Ray inheriting the property. No codicils, no amendments, no handwritten additions. Clean as glass. Third, I screenshotted the utility portal showing Ray had redirected gas and electric into his name while the charges kept draining my bank account. Marcus looked at those screenshots for about 10 seconds and said, "That's fraud." Screenshot it again with the timestamps visible. I did. Fourth, photos. The gutted guest bathroom. The torn-out tile stacked in the backyard like rubble from a demolition site. Tile my grandmother drove 40 miles to pick out. Marcus estimated at least $3,800 in unauthorized property damage. Fifth, bank records from First Coastal Credit Union. The $4,350 withdrawal from the joint account Eloise never closed. Made 2 days after I confronted Ray in the kitchen. His signature on the withdrawal slip. His handwriting, no question. And sixth, text messages. A thread where Ray told me to stop being difficult and let family handle family business. One message in particular where he wrote, and I quote, "I changed the locks because it's my house now." Marcus read that one out loud and actually laughed. "He just handed you the case," he said. We filed everything in a binder. Marcus labeled each tab Exhibit A through G. I also filed a formal complaint with Savannah Police about the lock change and the withdrawal. Ray didn't back down. He did the opposite. He called my cousins in Atlanta and Jacksonville and spun the whole story inside out. Poor Ray, just trying to honor Mama's wishes. Selfish Darcy, hoarding the family home. Within 2 days, I was getting calls from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. Every single one telling me to do the right thing and let Ray stay. My cousin Brianna sent a group text calling me cold-blooded for threatening legal action against family. 43 people on that thread. I didn't respond to a single one. Tina posted on Facebook a long, melodramatic status about how some people don't deserve what they're given and how real family shows up. It got 47 comments, almost all from strangers, people who didn't know me, people who had never set foot in that house or changed a single oxygen tank at 3 a.m. inside the house. Ray got petty. He accidentally let Biscuit outside twice. He played music until 1 a.m. on a Tuesday. He left my mail on the kitchen counter, damp from the rain, envelopes warped and unreadable. When I asked him to stop, he shrugged. If you don't like how family lives, maybe you should leave. 3 separate relatives called suggesting I just add Ray to the deed as a compromise. My Aunt Carol called crying, saying Eloise would be ashamed of me for tearing the family apart. That one almost got me. I sat in my car in the clinic parking lot for 20 minutes after that call, staring at the steering wheel. I told Marcus I was thinking about offering Ray a deal. Maybe let him stay a few months, help him get on his feet. Marcus shut that down so fast I flinched. He told me the moment I gave Ray any formal permission to stay, his legal status shifted from trespasser to tenant. And eviction as a tenant in Georgia is 10 times harder, 10 times slower. He walked me through the unlawful detainer process at Chatham County Magistrate Court. Fast, clean, and with our evidence, a near guaranteed win. He also told me to add a theft by conversion charge for the $4,350. In Georgia, theft by conversion above $1,500 is a felony. I took one breath and filed both actions on Monday morning. That same afternoon, Mrs. Lorraine Avery knocked on my door. Lorraine, 71, had lived next door for 32 years. She watched me care for Eloise through every stage. She watched Ray not show up. She came over with a plate of shortbread and a handwritten statement. Lorraine had been present for at least 4 conversations where Eloise explicitly said the house was mine and that Ray burned his bridge years ago. As a retired Chatham County clerk, Lorraine knew exactly how to format an affidavit. She had it notarized at the UPS store on Abercorn Street that same afternoon. When Ray found the court summons taped to the front door, he ripped it in half, threw both pieces in the yard, and told me I'd just made the biggest mistake of my life. But he was already too late. The court date was set, and the judge had already reviewed the file. Chatham County Magistrate Court. A Tuesday morning in March. I sat at the plaintiff's table, with my binder in front of me, and Marcus in the chair right behind me. I'd worn the nicest blouse I owned. My hands were steady for the first time in weeks. Ray showed up 15 minutes late. Jeans, work boots, no attorney. He walked in like he'd been pulled out of something more important. Tina was in the gallery 3 rows back, arms crossed, looking like she'd rather be anywhere else on earth. The judge was an older woman with reading glasses on a chain and zero patience for theatrics. She'd clearly seen 100 of these cases. She opened my binder and went through it piece by piece. The deed, the will, the bank records, the photos of the gutted bathroom, the text messages, Lorraine Avery's notarized affidavit. She spent a long time on the text where Ray wrote, "I changed the locks because it's my house now." Then she looked up at Ray. "Mr. Whitmore, do you have any documentation supporting your claim to this property?" Ray straightened up. "Your Honor, my mother promised me that house. She said it in front of people. Family knows." "Do you have that promise in writing?" "It was a family conversation, ma'am. We don't put everything on paper." "The state of Georgia does." She folded her hands. "Do you have any document? A will amendment? A letter? A deed modification? Anything with your name on it?" A pause. The longest 3 seconds of my life. "No, ma'am." "Then I'm not sure what you expected to happen today." She ruled in my favor on every single count. Ray was ordered to vacate the property within 72 hours. He was ordered to pay $11,200 in damages, $3,800 for the bathroom destruction, $4,350 for the drained account, $3,050 in court costs, and compensatory damages. The theft by conversion charge was referred to the district attorney's office for potential criminal prosecution. And the judge added, on the record, that Mr. Whitmore's conduct demonstrated a disturbing disregard for both property rights and family decency. Ray didn't look at me once. Not when the ruling came down, not when the judge dismissed the case, not when he walked out of that courtroom with his boots scuffing the tile like a kid sent to the principal's office. He moved out in 48 hours, not because he respected the ruling, because Tina made him. She loaded her 2 sons into her car, told Ray she didn't sign up for this, and drove back to Augusta without him. Left him standing in the driveway with 2 duffel bags and no plan. He spent the next 2 weeks couch surfing between distant relatives, none of whom offered him more than a few nights. The family members who had pressured me went silent. Every last one. Cousin Brianna deleted her group text. Aunt Carol didn't call again. Tina's Facebook post vanished without explanation. Nobody apologized. They just disappeared, which honestly felt about right. The $11,200 judgment went to collections when Ray missed his first payment. I didn't chase it. I was already done with him. 6 weeks later, he sent me a text. It wasn't an apology. It was a negotiation. He asked if I'd be willing to let bygones be bygones and maybe help him with a deposit on an apartment. He said he got carried away and that family should still be family. I read it twice. I thought about responding with everything I'd held back for months. Every night I couldn't sleep. Every time I rang my own doorbell. Every piece of my grandmother's tile in that debris pile. Instead, I typed 3 sentences. "I wish you well, Ray, but you made your choices. Please don't contact me about money again." He never replied. I had the locks changed again. This time, I picked them myself. Brushed nickel deadbolts, solid and heavy in my hand. I restored the guest bathroom, choosing tile that was close to what Eloise originally had. A soft blue. Not exact, but close enough to feel like hers. I closed the joint account at First Coastal permanently. Marcus helped me set up a basic estate plan so nothing like this could ever happen again. I adopted a second rescue cat from the clinic. A gray tabby I named Clementine. She and Biscuit hated each other for exactly 4 days, and then became inseparable. I started an herb garden in the backyard, right where Ray's debris pile used to be. Basil, rosemary, thyme. On Saturday mornings, Mrs. Lorraine comes over for coffee on the porch swing. We don't talk about Ray. We talk about the weather, and her grandkids, and whether the tomatoes will make it through August. My uncle called me, just the name on a piece of paper. He said it like it was an insult, like paperwork was beneath him, like documents were for people who didn't have the guts to just take things. But here's what Ray never understood. That piece of paper was my grandmother's final word, her last act of love. And when it mattered most, it held up in court, in front of a judge, against every lie he told. Paper doesn't forget, and neither do I.